All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. My dear, older sister got married early. It was in those distant, now almost unthinkable times, when there were no cell phones yet, and not every apartment had landlines. Passports in those days were filled in manually, with ink and a simple school pin with an iron pin. And ink, as you know, is very poorly absorbed into paper. Thus, it was very easy to pick out a piece of carcass with a thin needle and thus turn the number 5, in the date of birth, into the number 3, which was filigreed. At that time, my sister was studying at a choreographic school and she could not leave any man indifferent. And her man fell in love 12 years older. It so happened that he was only 7 years younger than our parents, which shocked them. But it was completely useless to dissuade or persuade her from such a crazy step, and the parents resigned themselves and blessed the newlyweds. For several years, we have not met or seen each other. It is quite understandable that it is very easy for an almost 30-year-old man to put noodles on a young girl. Exactly 9 months later, my sister gave birth to a 4-kilogram baby. The years passed. Her husband worked at a large metallurgical plant, and she was a choreographer in her specialty at a large house of culture, where she was engaged in dance performances and directing various mass events for workers. Like all cultural workers, she also worked, mostly in the evenings, entertaining the working people after their working day. Apparently, such a schedule of her work began to bother her husband, and family quarrels, scandals, unfounded accusations of infidelity began, and it began to reach physical abuse. It all ended up what it was going to, a divorce. The apartment was divided with a change, and they parted in such a way that she got 2 rooms in a 3-room communal apartment in a 3-story building with high ceilings. The 3rd room was occupied by a very ancient, puny, but very nimble and lively old woman over 80 years old, with whom I would not dare to run distilleries. In the summer, she went to her daughters for several months, or even more than 6 months, and did not cause any inconvenience to my sister. The son grew up, the sister continued to disappear late at work in the evening, and the child was left to himself. If, by chance, the same grandmother did not have time to feed him, then he did it like that. 2 years later, she remarried to some Tatar and gave birth to another child. But life did not work out there either, apparently for the same reason as with the first one. And he also left, taking his own son with him. The meager salary of a cultural worker was sorely lacking for the needs of an ever-growing child, and they decided to rent out 1 room, perfectly accommodating the 2 of them in the second. The tenants were, as a rule, either undergraduate students or similar young people. Of course, they showed special signs of attention to their young mistress. Sometimes she succumbed to their provocations and, due to her own hunger of the young female body, disappeared into their room. Meanwhile, the son was also growing up and starting to understand a little what it means, where is what kind of fish and how much, and what his mom might be doing. He became brash, rude, and irritable. He began to disappear from home for several days, hanging out somewhere, where he spent the night and what he ate. And by that time, I had already served 3 years in the Navy, entered a technical school and lived in a hostel, sometimes at night unloading wagons at bases, sometimes moonlighting as a watchman or a janitor to somehow feed myself. And, I'll tell you, in a compartment with a scholarship, there was enough for trips to restaurants and cafes at prices of the 70s. Now I don't remember which ones, but on some joys, and for once I decided to visit my own sister. Apparently, the student had extra money. I got a lot of beer for myself, as usual, and a good red wine for my sister, as a woman. She greeted me with great joy and with open arms. "Oh, brother, my beloved brother, I missed you so much. Where have you been for so long?" Grandma was not in the apartment. We settled down in a small communal kitchen. Time flew by unnoticed behind the memories of her childhood, youth, and the difficult, real reality that had developed in her life. I drank my beer, sometimes smoking through the window, and she sipped her wine in small sips. "That's why it's like this?" she asked me in a drunken voice and sleepy eyes. "That's why it's like this? Why I don't have a normal life, a normal family, a normal man. And I'm a living person. I'm a woman, brother. It is worth inviting someone to his house, so the son throws up such scandals, almost to the breaking of dishes. What can I do? All my friends who came to spend the night with me, and with whom I planned to live, seeing this, disappeared forever after the second or third time. What should I do? I also want to be loved and love. But he, now, right from the doorstep, turns everyone away and throws them out. Imagine. And what should I do, brother? What should I do? I don't know. I answered sincerely. I don't know. Galia became more and more intoxicated, relaxed and frank. Pulling her stool up to my side and pushing it close to mine, she rested her head on my shoulder. The drunk wine was doing its job. At the same time, small tears continuously rolled out of her eyes. She was sniffing, wiping her snot with a towel. The evening slowly turned to night. It was already very late. I was getting ready to go home. After escorting me to the door, she began to speak almost in a whisper, with hopeless longing in her voice. Well, brother, and you too, my closest person that I have in this life. You're leaving too, and I'll be alone again. Stay here. Where are you going now? It's getting late. Trams are no longer running. The room is free. Stay, and in the morning with the first tram, you will go to class. She sobbed again and sniffed. Come on, she said. I'll show you a room and a sofa where you can spend the night. My son has been gone for 3 days anyway, and it is unknown when he will appear. So you can go to bed. Entering the room, she pointed to the sofa with her hand and asked, Well, brother, will you be okay here? Yes, of course, it's fine, I replied. Now let me walk you to your crib, and we'll go to bed already. We wandered into her room. Sit with me, brother, she said, sitting down on the bed. Well, why am I not so happy, huh? Why do all the men run away from me? How many did I have? Do you know? There were all sorts, both young and older. They'll live a little, 2 or 3 months, sleep with me and disappear. Why? And I'm a beautiful, slender, educated girl. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't swear. I know how to take care of myself. After college, I graduated from the Institute of Culture, you know. What else do men need? Well, yes, I understand that my son does not like it. He drove them all out and did not give them a living. But why didn't he ever think of me? After all, I also want to live a full life, but not on a case-by-case basis. I'm so sick of this culture already. I already want to be the same as everyone else. I want to send everything and everyone with obscenities. And I'm all about culture. I can't. Or maybe I, too, like everyone else, want to make love, but I can't say that. Come on, don't get upset, I said in a quiet, gentle, insinuating voice. When your son grows up, everything will get better for you, and everything will be fine. At that moment, the male animal woke up in me. It no longer mattered to me who was in front of me. There was a woman in front of me with all her scents, smells, and charms. Oh, how good, said my little sister. Suddenly, as if an electric shock shook her body, she seemed to come to her senses and returned from oblivion to reality. Brother, what is it? What are we doing? How is that? You can't do that. We're family. She spoke in a slurred voice. Is it bad for you? Don't you like it? No, on the contrary, I haven't felt so good for a very long time. But I'm your own, older sister. Come on. Who will know about this? And what's the big deal? Well, now we are completely different people. We're adults now. What kind of adults? And now you're all like yourself with higher education, with the Institute of Culture all. And in fact, you, like any girl in this world, with the highest education, just wants to make love. But you're right about something, brother. If you only knew how, sometimes, you want to get rid of all this bombast. But the position does not allow. The education obliges. Come on. Don't bother. Was it good for you just now? Good. So why be ashamed of your feelings and desires and wind yourself up with some kind of moral and immoral principles? If no one has been using you for how many years in a row, humanly, and life goes by. Oh, but it's wrong, because a brother can't use his own sister. Looking up at me with her completely drunk eyes, she smiled slightly with the same crooked and completely meaningless, drunken smile. Something unimaginable was happening to me. I pounced on her like a lion on an antelope. Brother, my brother, what are you doing there? I don't see it. Well, what are you doing, my dear sister? Why cry? Well, what should I do? I'm alive and still young. Forgive me, brother, If you can, come on. Stop it. What are you starting to do nonsense here with your apologies? Was it bad for you? I was still a girl. I couldn't even think about anything like that. And here is such a man. An adult, handsome, athletic, with higher education, painted a beautiful life if I marry him. 5 years later, he found another one, and I just got a taste. And now this son, he won't let a single man near me. And I'm only in my 30s. Hey, in my opinion, you're just, in fact, an unhappy woman. An unhappy woman who just wasn't lucky in life. And when was the last time you had a man? I don't even remember anymore. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years have passed. After the second husband left, I thought everything, to no one else and with no one. And she's still young. Thank you, my beloved little brother. I was a fool before. I couldn't even imagine that with my own brother. You can do this. So, what's wrong? I wondered. It's so cool. You can make love. Come back more often, she said softly. Don't get lost for so long. I will never forget this night. You're my dearest person. Come whenever you want. Now I'm going to miss you in a special way. Of course I'll come, I said, and closed the door behind me.